Think about something as seemingly simple as a museum. We've all walked through them, right? Looked at exhibits, maybe felt a bit of awe. But what is a museum, really? And how did these places, these incredible spaces filled with everything from ancient bits to modern art, how do they go from, private hoards to public institutions? Today, we're taking a deep dive into the world of museums. We want to explore what they fundamentally are, trace their roots from, ancient inspirations right up to the many roles they play today. And maybe more importantly, we'll try to uncover some of the intricate, often unseen work that goes into making these places work, these spaces of knowledge and wonder.
Yeah, our mission here basically is to unpack all those layers, the meaning, the purpose behind museums. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding their history, how they function now, and even the challenges they face, their future maybe. And we're drawing on a whole bunch of expert notes, academic definitions, historical accounts, all that good stuff to guide us, give you the essentials without, drowning you in footnotes.
Exactly. The material we've pulled together, it paints a really full picture of how museums have changed, adapted over, millennia. It's surprisingly deep. Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start right at the beginning. The word itself, museum. It's pretty old, isn't it?
Oh yeah, ancient. It comes from the Greek muses.
Right, the Muses, the nine goddesses of arts and sciences in Greek myth, daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory.
That's the one. Memory. Very fitting.
And their job basically was to inspire people, poets, academics, artists, give them that spark. And more than that, I read they help people forget sadness, focus on art, beauty, deep thought.
Exactly. Which makes sense for the verb to muse, meaning to think deeply, and a muse being inspiration.
So it suggests a space for more than just, looking at stuff. It's about thinking, engaging.
Absolutely. That idea of deep thought, inspiration, it connects right to the core purpose, even now. And when we talk about what's in these places, there's specific language for the things they hold, what you might just call stuff. Our notes explain a museum object is basically any material thing in a collection, 2- or 3-dimensional.
Okay, so object is the general term.
Right, but then it gets more specific. A specimen, for instance, that's more like a representative piece, often for science, like a fossil or rock sample, that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Then an artifact. That's something made or changed or even just picked up and used by a human. Think an old tool, some pottery. It's a cultural specimen an archaeologist would look at.
And an art object.
Simple enough an artifact that we value for how it looks, its aesthetic interest.
Okay. And who explains all this when you're actually in the museum?
Often that's the docent. They're usually trained volunteer guides, there to bring the collections to life for you.
All right, so it's not just random items. There's a whole system for classifying them.
Yeah.
And getting them into the museum must have its own procedures.
Oh, definitely. That's where these internal processes are crucial. Like accession, that's the formal legal step. Acquiring objects from one source at one time, officially welcoming it.
Okay.
Then registration, that's giving each item its own unique ID number, like a fingerprint, really, essential for tracking.
And cataloging.
That's building the item's whole story, its history, condition, why it matters, creating this huge systematic list of the entire collection. It's vital for research, for putting exhibitions together.
Wow, okay. A lot goes into just defining the things. But what about defining the museum itself? You mentioned the definition changed.
Hugely. Our sources really highlight how dynamic this concept is. It mirrors shifts in society.
Yeah.
So for instance, way back in 1895, George Brown Goode saw it as an institution for preserving objects that show nature and human work, used to increase knowledge and enlighten people.
Enlighten people. Sounds quite grand.
It was. Earlier views were even simpler. Douglas A. Allen just called it a building to house collections for inspection, study, and enjoyment. Pretty basic.
Okay, so how did it get more complex?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the International Council of Museums, ICOM. Their definition tells a story. Back in 1956, they mostly focused on conserving and displaying stuff for study, education, enjoyment, standard stuff.
Right.
By 2007, big changes. They added nonprofit, called it a permanent institution in the service of society, and crucially said it acquires, conserves, researches, communicates, and exhibits the tangible and intangible heritage of humanity and its environment.
Intangible heritage.
Yeah.
Like traditions, stories.
Exactly, a much broader view.
And it didn't stop there.
Nope. 2022, they expanded it again. The latest definition really emphasizes not-for-profit, stresses being accessible and inclusive, fostering diversity and sustainability. It talks about operating ethically, professionally, and with the participation of communities, offering varied experiences for education, enjoyment, reflection, and knowledge sharing.
Wow. That's a massive shift. From a building full of objects to something deeply embedded in society, ethical, inclusive, community-focused.
It absolutely is. It shows the journey from a sort of static vault for the elite to an active, ethical, community-driven institution, truly in the service of society.
It reflects this global understanding that heritage isn't just objects. It's about people, communities, our shared future.
Precisely. So if we connect all these evolving definitions to what museums do today, despite all the shifts in emphasis, some core functions always pop up. They're the pillars: collection, research, documentation, display or exhibition, publication, and education.
That makes sense. Those core functions, collection, research, display, they're the engine. But where did this urge to collect even start? Our sources go way, way back on this.
It seems almost innate, doesn't it? The impulse goes back to the Paleolithic age, collecting basics: food, clothing, weapons, survival, really.
Then later it became about status.
Yeah, wealth, power, prestige, politics. Think palaces filled with arms, armor, silk, gold, jewels. Showing off, basically.
So when did it get more organized? More like a museum?
Well, the earliest known example is pretty amazing, found in the Ur Valley, Mesopotamia. Princess Enigaldi's collection, 6th century BC.
What was so special about it?
The objects were systematically arranged, and incredibly, they had labels. Clay cylinders serving as museum labels in 3 languages for artifacts dating back to 2000 BC.
Labels. In 3 languages.
Yeah.
In the 6th century BC. That's astounding.
It really is. Shows that desire for organization. Though it seems like only powerful empires could really pull that off back then.
Okay, so that's the earliest known. What about the first organized museum structure?
That's generally considered the Museum of Alexandria in Egypt, ran from the 3rd century BC to the 7th century BC, set up by Ptolemy Soter.
600 years.
Incredible lifespan, yeah, until it was destroyed in a civil war. But it wasn't just about objects. It was a major center of classical learning, almost like a modern university.
A university.
Kind of. Scholars did research there, published, lectured, collected literature. It was a hub of knowledge, not just a display case.
That really changes the picture of ancient museums. Okay, fast forward a bit. The Renaissance in Europe, 14th to 17th century. What was happening then?
Museums, or collections, really became very tied to power and politics again, practiced mainly by the aristocracy, rulers, rich merchants.
Ah, and this is where we get those cabinets of curiosities, the Wunderkammer.
Exactly. Kunstkammer or Wunderkammer. Fascinating things. They'd often categorize items: artificial, natural, exotic, scientific, a bit of everything.
So collecting widely.
Yes, gathering things through trade, conquest. But the sources say displays were mostly for leveled people, the elite. It was about showing prestige.
So not really public access yet.
Not broadly, no.
Right.
What? They were studying, cataloging, classifying, illustrating their finds. Those core museum functions were definitely developing, even if behind closed doors.
Right, setting the stage.
Definitely. And that meticulous work paved the way for the modern age, 17th to 21st century. This is when we see real global museum development. Early public institutions started popping up: the Oxford Museum, that was 1683, the British Museum, 1753.
And the Louvre. That was a big one.
Huge. What's fascinating there is it was established by the National Assembly during the French Revolution. Opened August 10th, 1793. It showed off 537 pieces of art, specifically as a museum of national masterpieces. That marked a really significant shift towards public access. A revolutionary idea, literally.
Taking art from the palaces to the people. That brings us closer to today, the postmodern museum era.
Right. Often characterized by those iconic buildings, like the Michaelichan Crystal or the Guggenheim Bilbao statement architecture.
And their purpose.
The aim now is often to be an open platform for continuous conversation between the past and present, enhance the visitor experience, be more responsive to contemporary culture. Development now focuses on systematization, deeper research, and the involvement of international bodies like ICOM, tying back to that evolving mission we talked about.
What an incredible sweep through time. From muses to these dynamic modern spaces. But let's pull back the curtain on the actual work involved, the stuff that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Starting with collection.
Right. The sources call it the primary function. It's ongoing, depends on the museum's theme, its type.
And they don't just collect everything, right? There's a plan.
Exactly. The scope of collection is key. It's not everything in the world. It's limited by a collection plan, and sometimes involves deaccessioning, carefully removing objects that don't fit or aren't needed anymore.
Okay, so how do they collect? What are the methods?
Well, it's quite diverse. Purchasing is common,
Hmm.
often involves a committee, specific policies, though our notes mention the National Museum in Nepal currently lacks a clear purchase policy, which can cause issues.
Right. What else?
There's exchange and replica. Museums might swap duplicate items for study or make replicas, say, using plaster of Paris for exhibition or education, protecting the original.
Makes sense.
Gifts and bequeaths are huge. Entire collections can be built on donations, but there's a lot of due diligence needed there.
Good.
Investigating the donor's intent, examining the objects, documenting them, checking if they fit the collection policy, formally accepting them. The Patan Museum, for example, got significant additions from donors like the Prithvi Raj Pandey family.
Okay. Loans.
Loans, yes. Acquiring or lending objects for set periods needs meticulous records, photos, videos to ensure they're safe. Then there's exploration, expedition, and excavation, mostly for anthropology, ethnography, zoology, botany collections. Needs expert field workers, documenting everything tangible and intangible.
And this brings us to a tricky area. Stolen items, illegally acquired stuff. How do museums handle that now?
Yes. Collection from, say, the Treasure Trove Act or dealing with stolen and renovated items. It's a major ethical and legal area. International cooperation is key here. You've got the Unidroit Convention from 1995 building on the UNESCO 1970 Convention.
What do they say?
Basically, that cultural property proven stolen or illegally exported must be returned.
Are there examples of this working?
Yes, the sources give some. The National Museum in Nepal used to have specific galleries for stolen objects recovered. The government has brought back idols like a Buddha from Pharping, another from Pimbahal, a Bara from Itumbaha. And sometimes museums even return objects to local communities, like Guthi or conservation committees, if they prove ownership. Patan Museum returned a Saraswati statue to Lele just last year.
So there's a real move towards restitution and ethical collecting.
Definitely a growing commitment globally.
But collecting clearly isn't easy. Even besides the ethics, what are the practical problems of collection?
Oh, plenty. Lack of funding's a big one. Conservation is difficult and expensive. Verifying authenticity can be tough. Maintaining local sentiment, especially around culturally sensitive objects, and just plain lack of space for storage and display.
And as you said, accidentally acquiring illegal items causes huge problems later.
Exactly. Reputation, legal issues, the works.
Okay, so once collected, ethically and carefully, how are these objects shared? That's exhibitions, right?
Right. The sources call exhibitions the primary means by which museums represent themselves to the community. It's where everything comes together: research, conservation, outreach,
And the purpose.
conveying information, ideas, emotions, mostly visually, dimensionally, but, connecting this back.
Yeah.
Exhibitions weren't always for everyone. Initially, it was more about showing off wealth or knowledge to the educated elite.
Right, the cabinets of curiosities model.
Kind of. But then, early 20th century, things shifted. Museums started relying more on public funds.
So accountability kicked in.
Exactly. They had to become more accountable, expand their mission to include public education, public service. That led to the engaging exhibitions we expect today.
And these exhibitions have different types.
Yep. Temporary exhibitions, they run for weeks or months, often focused on a theme or artist. Permanent exhibitions can be up for years, though museum staff often feel they get dated after maybe 5-10 years. Content gets old, communication styles change, but funding can keep them around longer.
And traveling ones.
Traveling or mobile exhibitions, they sort of bridge the gap, bringing collections and scholarship to wider audiences beyond the museum walls.
Okay. Collection, exhibition. What's the other really crucial unseen part?
Documentation. The meticulous, often invisible backbone. It's not glamorous, but without it, nothing else works.
Why is it so vital? What does it actually do?
Think of it as the museum's memory, its legal shield, its research database. It preserves knowledge, origin, history, condition. It facilitates research for scholars. It manages the collection tracking location, reducing loss, monitoring condition.
Essential for keeping track of everything.
Absolutely. And it's key for planning exhibitions, creating educational programs, plus the legal and ethical side, verifying provenance, supporting repatriation claims.
Right. Proving where something came from.
Crucial. And now with tech, digitalization makes records accessible online, increasing transparency. It helps conservation too with condition reports and treatment records. And finally, it enables collaboration between museums, sharing info, following international standards.
So what's the actual procedure?
It involves steps like accessioning, cataloging, photography, condition reporting, data entry, labeling, location tracking, and constantly updating records. It's a whole system.
And technology has changed this a lot.
Massively. Digital tools have enhanced research management and how visitors can engage with the information.
It's clear how vital that quiet work is.
Mhm.
Okay, let's zoom in now. Use Nepal as a case study to see how this plays out in practice. What's the museum story there?
Well, the sources outline several phases. Early forms involved images around temples, festivals like Bunla. Then the first phase saw the Chauhani Silkhana, which became the Nepal Museum. Later phases involved opening museums to the public, hiring technical staff, and establishing many new ones: the International Mount Museum, Army Museum, Money Museum, community museums. Quite a lot of development.
But development often comes with challenges. What are the specific problems of museums in Nepal mentioned?
Yeah, the sources list quite a few, and they reflect issues seen in many developing nations, honestly. Cultural preservation often fights for resources. There's a significant lack of funding from the government. Poor infrastructure is common in old buildings, without proper climate control, lighting, security,
Staffing.
limited expertise in staffing, a shortage of trained curators, conservators. Inadequate documentation and cataloging is a major issue. Plus, conservation challenges due to lack of modern tools, low public engagement, partly due to fewer educational programs or interactive exhibits.
Any external pressures?
Yes. Urbanization and encroachment threatening museum spaces, political instability leading to inconsistent policies, and minimal technological integration, not much digital archiving or virtual exhibits.
That sounds like a tough environment.
Yeah.
But you mentioned potential earlier.
Huge potential. The sources highlight this strongly. Nepal's diverse geography, its multi-ethnic communities, numerous archaeological sites, it's incredibly rich ground.
So what are the prospects?
Big ones. Cultural preservation, obviously. Tourism development. Educational upliftment. Engaging young people. And integrating technology better.
And this idea of mobile museums, that sounds really interesting for a place like Nepal.
Absolutely. The sources flag this. Imagine a museum coming to remote communities. It's a way to overcome geographical barriers, bring heritage directly to people, maybe inspire the next generation. A powerful tool for education and preservation.
So what does this all mean, wrapping up? We've gone from the muses, those ancient figures of inspiration, to the really complex workings of modern museums, looked at global trends and specific cases like Nepal.
Yeah, we've seen they're far more than just buildings with old stuff. They have deep historical roots, vital functions today.
And we've seen the complex, often hidden work involved. The meticulous documentation, the ethical tightropes of collection, the legal battles over artifacts. It's a lot.
It really is. So, considering this whole journey, the evolution, the challenges, what do you think is the most crucial role a museum plays now in society today? And maybe the bigger question, how do we make sure these vital institutions can keep adapting, keep thriving for the future with all the changes in tech, community needs, ethics?
That's the big question, isn't it? Something museums grapple with constantly. Hopefully this deep dive has sparked some thoughts, giving you a richer sense of these places that connect us past, present, and future.